Hello and welcome. You're watching Parliament News on DD India. First up, news from the Lok Sabha. Replying to a discussion on the COVID situation in the country, Health Minister Mansukh Mandavi on Friday informed Lok Sabha that RT-PCR tests of 16,000 passengers from at-risk countries have been conducted so far, of whom 18 have tested positive for COVID-19. He said genome sequencing for Omicron detection is underway for such passengers. Addressing the Lok Sabha, he said the union government has taken measures to make the country ready for any future challenges and adopted the buffer stock policy to ensure that all states have enough medicines to deal with any further surge in COVID cases. A decision on booster dose and jabs for children will be taken on the basis of scientific advice, he said, and appealed to opposition parties to trust scientists and not to politicize the issue. The discussion had started on the issue on Thursday. Now, the government on Friday sought Parliament's nod to infuse over 62,000 crore rupees into the company that holds residual assets and liabilities of Air India after its privatization as part of the over 3.73 lakh crore rupee additional spending plan in the current financial year. The extra spending would include 58,430 crore rupees by way of additional fertilizer subsidy, rupees 53,123 crore towards payment of pending export incentives, and 22,039 crore rupees to Rural Development Ministry for transfer to National Rural Employment Guarantee Fund. Minister of State for Finance Pankaj Chaudhary tabled the second batch of supplementary demands for grants in the Lok Sabha, envisaging a net cash outgo of over 2.99 lakh crore rupees and rupees 74,517 crore rupees extra expenditure would be matched by savings by different ministries. Later, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tabled the supplementary demands for grants for 2021-22 in the Rajya Sabha. As per this document, rupees 62,057 crore would be given to the Civil Aviation Ministry for equity infusion in Air India Assets Holding Company for repayment of past government guaranteed borrowing and past dues or liabilities of Air India. In October, the government signed the share purchase agreement with Tata Sons for the sale of Air India, along with low-cost carrier Air India Express and ground handling arm ASATS for rupees 18,000 crore. This amount includes rupees 2,700 crore in cash and takeover rupees 15,300 crore of the carrier's debt. Now, as of August 31, Air India had a total debt of rupees 61,562 crore. Of the total amount, now the Tata Group company will take over rupees 15,300 crore and the remaining 46,262 crore will be transferred to AIAHL. Now, as per supplementary demands for grants, an additional rupees 2,628 crore will be given towards loans and advances to Air India for recoupment of advance from Contingency Fund of India. The additional fertilizer subsidy includes rupees 43,430 crore on account of payment towards indigenous and imported phosphatic and potassic P&K subsidy and rupees 15,000 crore towards urea subsidy scheme. In addition, the Department of Food and Public Distribution will be given an additional rupees 49,805 crore for meeting expenditure towards various schemes of food storage and warehousing. About rupees 2,400 crore will be given to Department of Commerce for meeting expenditure towards subsidies under the Interest Equalization Scheme and investment under the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation or the ECGC scheme, among others. Moving on, another rupees 5,000 crore and over 4,000 crore has been earmarked for additional spending by the Ministries of Defence and Home respectively. The 2021-22 budget had projected the government's total expenditure at rupees 34.83 lakh crore rupees, but this is expected to overshoot considering the two batches of supplementary demands for grants presented by the government so far. The government had in August received Parliament nod for net additional spending of rupees 23,675 crore in the first batch of supplementary demands for grants. The ICRA Chief Economist Aditi Nair said at end October 21, 52% of the full year expenditure target had been completed and a portion of the higher than expected net cash outgo of rupees 3 lakh crore in the second supplementary demand for grants will need to be absorbed through savings in other demands to curtail the impact on the fiscal deficit. Nonetheless, there is near certainty that the fiscal deficit will exceed the budgeted rupees 15.1 lakh crore, despite ICRA assessment that net tax revenues and RBI surplus transfer will together surpass the BE by rupees 1.7 lakh crore rupees. As per supplementary demands for grants, about rupees 14,000 crore additional amount has been sought for Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, including for meeting the requirement for non-performing asset under Prime Minister's Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi or the PM Swanidhi, and grants for creation of capital assets under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban or the PMAYU. For meeting more expenditure towards grants for creation of capital assets under MP LADS, that's the Members of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, the government has proposed rupees 1153 crore for the current fiscal year. Now, during Zero Hour, a BJP member alleged that Christian missionaries were converting innocent tribals in Chhattisgarh through luring and intimidation and said they were more dangerous than Naxals. Raising the issue of religious conversion in Chhattisgarh, BJP's Raigarh MP Gomati Sai said the matter raised by her was not just related to religious conversion, but also to internal security of the country. Referring to a communication by Sukma SP to subordinates over the activities of the Christian missionaries, she said it clearly shows the dangerous situation pertaining to conversion prevailing in Bastar and Chhattisgarh at large. Thanking Home Minister Amit Shah for his efforts to bring down the violent activities in Bastar, she said that due to the pressure exerted by central forces, the Naxals are on the back foot. But Christian missionaries who are converting innocent tribals in Chhattisgarh through luring and intimidation are more dangerous than these Naxals, she said. The BJP MP also said work is also going to build prayer houses in the ravines of Chhattisgarh. Sai also hailed former BJP MP Dalip Singh Judeo for his fight against religious conversion and said he brought back lakhs of families who had left Hinduism to their religion through Ghar Wapsi. She demanded that the religious conversion being carried out by missionaries should be immediately stopped and a strong law be put in place against so that people do not indulge in such activities. Meanwhile, during Zero Hour, Pravesh Verma of the BJP MP from West Delhi raised the issue of exorbitant water and electricity bills being handed to people in Delhi, with the Kejriwal government claiming that water and electricity were being given to people for free. He showed a bundle of papers and said these were bills of water and electricity, with some of them going to lakhs of rupees. Now, Verma alleged that this was a scam in which, on one hand, Delhi government was claiming that electricity and water had been made free, and the other, bills were lakhs were being slapped on people. He sought a probe in the matter. Also during question hour, TMC MP Nusrat Jahan Ruhi raised the issue of disinvestment of profit-making PSUs by the government. She said PM Modi should come to the House and state what is the roadmap of the government with respect to future of PSUs. Two bills were introduced in Lok Sabha to extend the tenures of directors of the Central Bureau of Investigation, that is the CBI, and the Enforcement Directorate up to a maximum of 5 years from the present 2 years amid strong protests from opposition MPs. The Central Vigilance Commission Amendment Bill and Delhi Special Police Establishment Amendment Bill were introduced in the Lok Sabha by Minister of State for Personnel Jitendra Singh to limit the tenures of directors of CBI and ED to a maximum of 5 years respectively. The two bills seek to replace ordinances issued during intersession period. Opposing the introduction of two bills, Congress member Shashi Tharoor said the move to extend the tenures of the directors of CBI and the ED were in flagrant disregard of Supreme Court observations. Tharoor said the Apex Court observed that extension of tenure granted to officers who have attained the age of superannuation should be done only in rare and exceptional cases, and the government move was nullified. Trinamool's Saugata Roy opposed the move, contending that both the ED and CBI were two arms of the government used to harass opposition leaders. Congress members K. Suresh, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary and RSP member N. K. Premachandran also opposed the introduction of the bill. The members said piecemeal extension should lead to officers' loyalty to the government. Now, seeking to allay the apprehensions of the opposition, Jitendra Singh said that the earlier laws only fix a minimum limit on the tenures of directors of CBI and ED. The earlier laws never put any limit on tenures. We are limiting it to 5 years, Singh said. The The minister said ordinances were necessitated as Parliament remained disrupted. Should the government stop working if the House doesn't work? Singh asked. The directors of CBI and ED enjoy a fixed term of 2 years from the date of their appointment in the wake of the directives of the Supreme Court in the famous Vineet Narayan case. ED director is appointed by the central government on the recommendation of the committee chaired by the CVC, or the Central Vigilance Commissioner. Its members comprise of Vigilance Commissioners, Home Secretary, Secretary DOPT and Revenue Secretary. The director CBI is selected on the basis of the recommendation of a committee consisting of the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of India and the Leader of Opposition. The fixed term of 2 years was aimed at ensuring the chiefs of CBI and ED work free from government interference without worrying about any adverse action for the probes carried out by their agencies. And now to news from the Rajya Sabha. The impasse between the opposition and the government over the suspension of 12 MPs from the Rajya Sabha continued in the upper house of Parliament today as well. Soon after the laying of papers, Manoj Kumar Jha of RJD raised the issue of suspension of the opposition MPs, saying that the opposition MPs are sitting in protest at the Gandhi statue. Amid noisy scenes by opposition members, Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu said, Leader of the House and Leader of the Opposition sit together to resolve this issue. He said, I suggest to Leader of the House and the Opposition to sit together, discuss and find a way out for smooth functioning of the House. He said, there is a misconception that Leader of the Opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge, was not allowed to speak on the issue. He said, I had allowed the Leader of the Opposition to speak on the issue on November 30th. Now, amid the uproar, the Leader of the House, Piyush Goyal, said it was lamentable that the opposition is not willing to express regret for their behavior in the House. What does the opposition expect from us after their behavior inside and outside the House? They're not ready to express regret on their behavior, Mr. Goyal said. During Zero Hour, nominated member Sonal Man Singh said, after COVID pandemic, most of the cultural bodies are headless. She said, the vacant posts be filled up as soon as possible. Abdul Wahab of IUML said, Kerala government is ignoring those who fought for freedom. He said, the recent attempt to ignore the valor of those who fought against the Imperial British in Kerala has caused great resentment among the people. He urged government to reinstate the names of martyrs in their publication of Dictionary of Martyrs. Speaking on this issue, the chairman said, all martyrs who sacrificed their life for securing freedom should be remembered. Bishambar Prasad Nishad of the Samajwadi Party raised the issue of debarment of students of the Allahabad University. Vaiko of MDMK raised the issue of central government renaming schemes and programs in Hindi. Now, speaking on this issue, Chairman Venkaiah Naidu said all languages of India should be respected, promoted and encouraged. No imposition, no opposition to any language in India, unquote. Prasanna Acharya of BJD raised concern on the government order that paddy will not be procured. He said the government order that paddy will not be procured is hampering the interests of farmers. The government should withdraw this order, he said. Sanjay Singh of Aam Aadmi Party demanded a probe by SIT of High Court in leakage of many examination papers. Ajay Pratap Singh of the BJP raised concern on rising prices of sand in Madhya Pradesh. He demanded that government should revise ways to control these prices. Sujit Kumar of the BJD raised the issue of poor mobile connectivity in tribal districts of Odisha. He said, take urgent steps to restore mobile connectivity in these districts. Rakesh Sinha of the BJP, noting the contributions of printed publications during freedom movement, appealed that important role of writers, journalists, publications be included during the celebrations of Amrit Mahotsav. Sushil Kumar Modi of the BJP raised the issue of addiction of kids to online gaming. He urged the government to regulate this. He said, booming online gaming has become a big problem for youngsters in the country. Weekly time spent on mobile gaming, which was 2.5 hours before COVID, has increased to 4 hours during lockdown. I urge the government to make a comprehensive framework of regulation for online gaming, unquote. Chairman Venkaiah Naidu asked Minister of Communications, Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnav, to take note of the members' concerns. During special mention, Fauzia Khan of NCP raised the subject of providing 2-year relaxation to students aged barred in civil services examination in 2020. She urged government to give relaxation to these students and give 2 additional attempts to those whose attempts were exhausted in 2020. During question hour, Minister of Heavy Industries Mahendranath Pandey, responding to a question, said the government is focusing on electrical vehicles penetration in highly populated urban cities. He said priority as of now has been placed on highways, express highways and highly populated urban cities where problem of pollution is more. After that, it will expand to rural and other areas of the country, and arrangements have been made in this regard, unquote. In response to another question, the minister said the government plans to launch by December next year a prototype of a fast-charging electric vehicle. The ARAI Pune has been roped in to work on the issue of fast charging of electric vehicles, and they have prepared a proto, and by December 2022, we aim to release it in the market, the minister said. Responding to questions on procurement of parboiled rice from the states of Telangana and Odisha, Consumers Affairs Minister Piyush Goyal said the states have not fulfilled the complete provision of current stock promised to the central pool. He said they are jumping into the future without supplying what has already been agreed, unquote. In reply to a question, Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar said over 1.6 lakh crores have been deposited in the accounts of around 11.5 crore farmers under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme. He said, we are in touch with the regional governments to ensure that the scheme is not misused, unquote. Responding to a question, Minister of Electronics and IT Ashwini Vaishnav said that as an effort to boost semiconductor industry in the country, the government has held detailed talks with stakeholders. He said, semiconductor industry is a very complex industry. It's highly capital intensive. Government has held detailed talks with all stakeholders in the country, of the industry in particular. I hope this will lead to very good results, unquote. In the post-lunch session, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman laid out on the floor of the House the supplementary demand for grants. The government has sought approval for Parliament for additional spending of 3.73 lakh crores in the current financial year. Deputy Chairperson Harivansh called on members to introduce their private member bills. The House witnessed noisy scenes when KJ Alphonse of BJP introduced bill to amend the preamble of the Constitution. Rising on his seat, Manoj Kumar Jha of RJD said the bill cannot be allowed as it seeks to amend the preamble, which is the basic structure of the Constitution. Amendment to preamble is an attack on the very edifice of the Constitution, Jha said. Deputy Chairman Harivansh said the House will decide on the issue. This bill does not require President's prior consent. The House will decide, he said. After introduction of private members bill, the Rajya Sabha took up discussion on the Companies Amendment Bill 2019, a private members bill brought by Vinay Sahasrabudhe of the BJP. Now, this bill aims to propose 25% of CSR funding for maintenance of historic monuments. Speaking on the bill, Mr. Sahasrabudhe said that the ASI, the National Monuments Authority and other such agencies do not have the resources to maintain monuments. Taking part in the discussion, Jairam Ramesh of the Congress said that while he agrees with Mr. Sahasrabudhe on the need to preserve monuments, he said that the idea of CSR was to benefit local communities. He said this should be a guideline, not a blanket law. He lamented appointment of politicians as chairman of the National Monuments Authority. Now, this government has appointed a chairman of National Monuments Authority who does not have required qualifications. It's become a national political monuments authority, he said. Manoj Kumar Jha of RJD said it's very important to preserve monuments. He agreed with Jairam Ramesh of the Congress that members of prestigious institutions like National Monuments Authority should be people of integrity. Rakesh Sinha of BJP, supporting the bill, said we need to come out of the colonial mindset. In this context, he said, under the new government, the country is moving on a new phase of cultural nationalism. Minister of State Independent Charge for Corporate Affairs, Rao Inderjeet Singh, responding to the questions on the discussion on the bill, said, while the concern expressed with Sahasrabudhe about the need to preserve monuments is laudable, the present laws are adequate to provide for upkeep of monuments. He urged the member to withdraw the bill. The House was thereafter adjourned for the day. Now, deliberation on the bill will continue next week. With that, it's a wrap on Parliament News. Thanks for watching.